We continue now at the top of Daf Aleph and Mesechet Sanhedrin. This is Sanhedrin Daf 90a. And the previous summer there was a machlokas tanoim between the Rabbanan and Rabbi Shimon, both by Navi Shahidiach, a Navi who incites others to sin, and by Madiche Ir Hanidachas, the people who incite those who are in an Ir Hanidachas to worship Avodah Zarah. What is the punishment for Navi Shahidiach and Madiche Ir Hanidachas? The Rabbanan say that the punishment is skila, is stoning, and Rabbi Shimon says that the punishment is chenek, is strangulation. And now Rav Chisda says as follows: the machlokas between the Rabbanan and Rabbi Shimon is specifically ba'oker haguf da avodas kochavim, if somebody uproots the entirety of the mitzvah with regards to avodah zarah, v'kiyum mixas uvitul mixas da avodas kochavim, and also if he maintains part of it but nullifies part of it when it comes to avodah zarah. D'rachmano amar, because the Torah says min haderech, the pasuk says min haderech, and the pasuk over here is talking about Navi Shahidiach. It says, "V'hanavi yahu ocholem hachalom ahu yumas kidiber sora l'Hashem Elokechem hamotzi eschem me'eretz Mitzrayim v'hapodcha mibeis avodim l'hadichacha min haderech." It says that he's inciting you from the path, and so it says min haderech, and it means to say afilu mixas haderech, even if it's part of the path. That's what it means. Kiyu mixas bitul mixas. Aval oker haguf deshar mitzvahs. But let's say the Navi Shahidiach, he uproots the centrality of other mitzvahs, not specifically avodah zarah. So then divrei hakol b'chenek. So then everybody agrees that the punishment is chenek, is strangulation. V'kiyum mixas uvitul mixas to b'shar mitzvahs. And let's say he maintains some, but he also nullifies some with regards to other mitzvahs. Divrei hakol pater. So then everybody agrees that the person is exempt. And Rashi explains machlokas de Rabbanan and Rabbi Shimon. The machlokas between the Rabbanan and Rabbi Shimon bin Navi, when we're talking specifically about Navi Shahidiach, ba'oker kol haguf ba'avodas kochavim. That would be, let's say he uproots the entire idea of avodah zarah v'yomer. He says nitztavesi b'ruach hakodesh. He says, I have been commanded through ruach hakodesh mipi hagavura, from the mouth of the Almighty, lehisnabos, to say the following prophecy: lakor kol mitzvahs avodas kochavim in HaTorah, that we're uprooting the entire mitzvah of avodah zarah from the Torah. Olakayim mixas ulevatel mixas, or let's say he's maintaining some of the idea of avodah zarah in terms of not worshiping avodah zarah, but he's nullifying some of it. So bahai hu deka amri. So in those situations, again by oker haguf or kiyum mixas bitul mixas, but both by avodah zarah. So there the Rabbanan say skila. Over there in that situation, deka amri Rabbanan skila. That's where the Rabbanan say skila. Mishum de bahai in yona dechsiva hadacha bin navi de gamra skila minei, because in that topic, in the context of where hadacha is written by the navi, where we learn skila, be avodah zarah hu mishtoi. It's talking about avodah zarah. That's the context of the pasuk. Techsiv, because it's written uvahos v'hamofes v'gomer neilcha v'navda, talks about worshiping avodah zarah. Hainu akiras haguf. That means you're uprooting the entire idea of avodah zarah from the Torah. Ubitul mixas hasam namiksiv b'seif, and also let's say you're even nullifying just part of avodah zarah. That's also written at the end, as the pasuk says, "You must kidiber sorel hadichacha min haderech." When he uses the word min haderech, the words min haderech, the afilu b'mixas mashma, means even if it's just partially that he's nullifying. Umiu lo mishtoi kra elo b'avodah zarah. But the point over here is that the Torah is only talking about avodah zarah. The davar lamed minyano. This is something that we're learning from the context of the psukim. Aval oker haguf deshar mitzvahs divrei hakol b'chenek. But says Rav Chisda, when it comes to uprooting the centrality of other mitzvahs, let's say not avodah zarah, you're uprooting an entire mitzvah. So there everybody agrees that the punishment is chenek. The nafkalon mikra acharina. That's learned from a different pasuk, Amar b'parsha acharina, which is said in a different parsha. The lo ksiv bo hadacha. It doesn't say the word hadacha. Achan navi asher yazid ledaber davar b'shmi. It says if the navi is going to say something in my name, v'hainu mashalo shama, he's saying something he didn't hear. Uchsiv umeis hanavi yahu. It says that navi will die. V'chol misa amura stam b'cheneku. And anytime you have misa that's said without explaining which kind of death penalty, we assume it's chenek. We assume that it's strangulation. But then when it comes to other mitzvahs, according to Rav Chisda, kiyum mixas and bitul mixas of other mitzvahs, everybody agrees patri is exempt. The hasam davar ksiv, because there it says the word davar, and so we understand davar shalem v'lo chatzi davar. It means an entire matter and not half of the matter. And the Gemara continues, Mesev Rav Hamnuna. Rav Hamnuna asks a question from the following Brisa. The Brisa brings the pasuk, the same pasuk we had before, Loleches. It says to go, Zu mitzvahs aseh. That refers to mitzvahs aseh, to positive commandments. And ba, when it says the word ba, Zu mitzvahs los aseh, that refers to negative commandments. Again, the pasuk says, Asher tzivcha Hashem Elokecha Loleches ba. So we're learning that the Navi Shehidiach, it's talking by both positive commandments and negative commandments. And so the Gemara now says, Visalka daitach. Now, if it should enter your mind, like Rav Chisda said, ba'avodas kochavim, that the pasuk here is talking about avodah zara. I say ba'avodas kochavim hechim ashkachas la. Where do we find positive commandments by avodah zara? It's all negative commandments, not to worship avodah zara. And the Gemara answers, Tir Gemara Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda will answer, v'nitatztem. There is a positive commandment by avodah zara because it says you have to smash the idols. And Rashi explains loleches zu mitzvahs aseh. It says loleches, that refers to positive commandments. Brisa b'sifri. This is the Brisa in the Sifri. Gabi Parshas Navi Hamidiach. The chasa bo hadocha ladichacha min haderech asher tzivcha Hashem Elokecha loleches bo. Again, it says loleches bo in the pasuk. V'darish kra yisera loleches zu mitzvahs aseh. The mashma lasos v'lo mashma azhara. The word loleches is like positive commandments. It's not mashma a warning. It doesn't imply a warning. It implies something to do. And bo is los aseh. The word bo, that implies negative commandments. The Gamin ma'asher chotar bo develos aseh marri. We learn from another pasuk. It says asher chotar bo. That's talking about negative commandments. Alma deshar mitzvahs nami hachagabe hadocha ksivi. You see that we're talking about other mitzvahs also. The lo mishtoi kro ela b'avodah zara, because if the pasuk is only talking about avodah zara, my aseh ika, what aseh is there? What positive commandment is there? And the Gemara again answered that the positive commandment would be v'nitatztem. And the Gemara continues, Rav Hamnuna Amar, Rav Hamnuna says, the machlokus between the Rabbanan and Rabbi Shimon by Navi Shehidiach, whether the punishment is skila like the Rabbanan or the punishment is chenek like Rabbi Shimon, that's ba'oker haguf, that's if you uproot the entire mitzvah, and that's bein ba'avodas kochav and bein b'shar mitzvahs, whether we're talking about avodah zara or other mitzvahs, if you uproot the entire mitzvah, again there's a machlokus. And also, v'kiyum mixas uvitul mixas ta'avodas kochavim, also let's say you maintain part of the mitzvah of avodah zara, but you uproot, you nullify some of it, so then also there's a machlokas tanoim, again, whether it's skila or chenek. D'rachmano amar min haderech, because the pasuk says again, lahadichacha min haderech, the same pasuk, and that means afilu mixas haderech, that means even part of the road, and the idea is specifically by avodah zara, even partially, again, there's a machlokas tanoim. Avol kiyam mixas uvitul mixas de b'shar mitzvahs, but let's say you maintain some, but nullify some of other mitzvahs, so then divrei hakol pater. There, everybody agrees that the Navi Shehidiach in that situation would be exempt. And Rashi explains, Uvein b'shar mitzvahs, again, if you uproot the entire mitzvah, that's also part of the machlokis by other mitzvahs. Dahai loleches ba, lo mashma leilu Rav Hamnuna avini tatztem, because the word loleches ba, that is not mashma, according to Rav Hamnuna, that's not going on vini tatztem, it's not going on avodah zara. You don't have a positive commandment by avodah zara that is referring to, and that again is at the end of the pasuk. At the end of that pasuk it says, Asher tzivcha Hashem Elokecha loleches ba, and so we have to assume loleches ba is not going on v'nitatztem, it must be going on all mitzvahs, and at that part of the pasuk, we're actually talking about the entire mitzvah, and so therefore by other mitzvahs it applies to the entire mitzvah. That's the point in terms of the end of the pasuk. And then when it comes to avodah zara, that's a little earlier in the pasuk, the Rachmana Amar min haderech, the pasuk says min haderech, again the words min haderech is lahadichacha min haderech, that's earlier than the leches ba. That part of the pasuk, which is partial, is going to refer only to avodah zara. The Rachmana Amar min haderech avodah zara kai, that's going on avodah zara. Dakati lo israbu shar mitzvahs b'hayin yana, because we still haven't included other mitzvahs yet. The laleches ba kula mashma, the laleches ba at the end of the pasuk is going on the entire mitzvah. That's by other mitzvahs, but by avodah zara it's even by part of the mitzvah. And then when it comes to partial by other mitzvahs, divrei hakol pater. There everybody agrees pater. V'afilu mechenek. Now that's true even from strangulation, which was another pasuk entirely that we quoted that Rashi is about to mention. The hasam davar shalim, because over there that other pasuk it said the word davar, it means the entire matter, if that's what's written. And furthermore, v'lava oker divrei Torah, hai ki yazid ledaber davar kai. Also that pasuk, that other pasuk of ki yazid ledaber davar, according to this interpretation, is not even going on uprooting divrei Torah. The hasam skilo, because there, as we said, that could already be referring to skilo. Like we said, you uproot an entire mitzvah, that's a machlokas tanaim, it might be skilo, it might be chenek. But this pasuk of ki yazid ledaber davar is certainly talking about chenek. Ela advarim bialma, according to this understanding, that pasuk of ki yazid ledaber davar is actually just talking about general prophecy, not about uprooting the Torah. Could go in Tzidkiah ben Kanana, for example, like Tzidkiah ben Kanana. And the Gemara continues, Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Hamisnabe lak or davar min haTorah. If somebody prophesizes to uproot something from the Torah, so chayiv, so he's liable. We'll see exactly what that means in a moment. And lekayim mixas ulevatel mixas. Let's say the person is maintaining some but nullifying some. Rabbi Shimon poter. Rabbi Shimon says poter exempt. Uvavodas kochavim, when it comes to avodah zara. Afilu omer hayom ivdu lamachar bitlua. Even if the person says today you should serve it, tomorrow you should nullify it. So that's partial by avodah zara. Divrei Kol chayiv, everybody agrees chayiv, everybody agrees liable, and again we'll interpret this in a moment. And the Gemara explains that Abaya savar like Rav Chisda. Abaya holds like Rav Chisda. Umetar is like Rav Chisda, and he can explain this entire brisa in accordance with Rav Chisda, as we'll see in a moment. And Rava savar like Rav Hamnuna. Rava held like Rav Hamnuna. Umetar is like Rav Hamnuna, and he explained this entire brisa like Rav Hamnuna. And the Gemara now explains Abaya savar like Rav Chisda. Abaya holds like Rav Chisda. Umetar is like Rav Chisda, and he explains the brisa like Rav Chisda as follows. Hamisnabe lak or davar min haTorah. If somebody is misnabe, he has a nevuah to uproot something from the Torah. Divrei hakol bechenek. So everybody agrees there that the punishment is going to be strangulation. That's talking about uprooting by other mitzvahs the entirety of the mitzvah. So when it says chayiv in the brisa, it really means to say chenek. That everybody agrees. And lakayim mixas ulevatel mixas by other mitzvahs. If you are maintaining some and nullifying some, so the brisa said Rabbi Shimon poter, Rabbi Shimon exempts. V'hu adin l'Rabbanan, and the truth is the same is true according to the Rabbanan. Everybody says exempt by other mitzvahs when it's just partial. And then at the end of the brisa, uvavodas kochavim, when it comes to avodah zara, afilu amar hayom ivdu alamachar bitlu, even if he says that today you should worship it and tomorrow you should nullify it, meaning partial by avodah zara, so then the brisa said chayiv liable, so that would just be market islay or market islay. That's the machlokas tanoim. The Rabbanan would say you're chayiv skila, and Rabbi Shimon would say you're chayiv chenek. Again, that is how Abaya is going to interpret this particular brisa. And the Gemara continues, Rava savar like Rav Hamnuna. Rava held like Rav Hamnuna. Umetaris like Rav Hamnuna, and he explains the brisa like Rav Hamnuna as follows: Hamisnabe lak or davar min haTorah. If somebody has a nevuah to uproot something from the Torah, and according to this interpretation, it's the entirety of the mitzvah. Bein ba'avodas kol chavim, bein b'shar mitzvahs. Now that would be true by both avodah zara, and it would be true by other mitzvahs. Chayiv liable, and according to this interpretation, marked islay or marked islay. This is the machlokas tanoim by uprooting the entirety, whether it's avodah zara, whether it's by shar mitzvahs. There's a machlokas tanoim whether it's skila or chenek between the Rabbanan and Rabbi Shimon, as we said. And then the brisa says lekayim mixas ulevatel mixas b'shar mitzvahs. If a navi is coming to maintain partial but nullify partial by other mitzvahs, so then Rabbi Shimon poter v'hu adin l'Rabbanan. Rabbi Shimon would say exempt, and the Rabbanan also would agree exempt in that particular situation. And finally, the brisa says uvavodas kochav, when it comes to avodah zara, afilu omer hayom ivduo l'machar betlu. Even if he says today worship and tomorrow nullify, meaning to say partial by avodah zara, chayiv, again the brisa said liable, and that would mean, according to this understanding, marked islay or marked islay, each one according to what they hold. Again, the Rabbanan would say skila, and Rabbi Shimon would say chenek. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabbi Avo, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Avo says that Rabbi Yochanan says, Bakol, when it comes to everything, Im Yomer Lach Navi Avur Al Divrei Torah. If a Navi says, and we're talking here about a Navi where there's a chazaka that he's a true Navi, if he says to transgress the words of the Torah, it means to say to transgress, do an Avera on a temporary basis. So Shamalo, so you should listen to him as long as he's not uprooting the mitzvah entirely. He's just saying right now, temporarily, a Horas Shah, you need to transgress, so then you can listen to that Navi if there's a chazaka that he's a true Navi. But chutz me avodas kochavim, but with the exception of avodah zara, shafilu maimid lo chama be'emtza harakia, even if he stands the sun still in the middle of the sky, al tishmalo, you shouldn't listen to him if he says to worship avodah zara, even if it is a horoas shah. And the Gemara continues, Tanya we learn in the Brisa, Rav Yossi Aglili Yomer, Rav Yossi Aglili says, Higia Torah l'sof daita shal avodas kochavim. The Torah understood the end of what is going to be with avodah zara. Lefikach, therefore nitna Torah memshala ba. Therefore the Torah gave rulership over it, which means to say, Shafilu Maimid Lacham, it means to say, even if the Navi has rulership over nature, even if he's able to stop the sun, Be'emtza Harakia, in the middle of the sky, Al Tishmalo, you shouldn't listen to him when it comes specifically again to Avodah Zarah. And the Gemara continues, Tanya, we learn in the Brisa, Amar Rabbi Akiva says, Chas v'sholom sha'akadosh baruch hu, Maimid Chama lo over ritzona. Chas v'sholom, to say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu would allow the sun to stand still, that somebody who's over ritzona, somebody who transgresses in this fashion would be able to make the sun stand still. That would be impossible. Ella rather, kagon, it's for example as follows. Chananya ben Azor, you could have a case like Chananya ben Azor, Shamitchilaso Navi Emes, where originally he actually was a true Navi, Ulvasof Navi Sheker, and then at the end he was a false false Navi, that's the only situation where such a Navi might be able to control nature in that fashion. Rashi explains, Yomer lach Navi ha-muchzak. Again, you have a Navi that's muchzak, that you have a presumption, you have a chazaka that he's a true Navi. And he says, Avor al divrei Torah. He says, transgress the Torah, but hakol lefi takonas hasha, but just because of something that's needed at that moment. Kagon, for example, Eliyahu b'har HaKarmel b'shchutei chutz. Eliyahu b'har HaKarmel, he allowed them to slaughter outside of the Mikdash. And Rashi continues, then the Gemara said, Nitna HaTorah Memshala Ba. Again, there's a certain rulership over nature. Kilomar, what it means to say is, Afilu Tira Oso Navi Moshel Va'osa Kiritzono. Even if you see this particular Navi ruling and doing what he wants, controlling nature, Techsiv, as it's written, V'nasan Eilecha Oso Mofes, that he's able to give you some kind of sign or wonder, but even in that situation, you don't listen by Avodah Zarah. But then the Gemara said, Shetchilaso Navi Emes. It's not true. Somebody can't control nature if they're over Eritzono. That's only by a Tchilaso Navi Emes, that's only by somebody who's a true Navi, meaning Kegon Chananya HaNavi. For example, Chananya HaNavi, V'hayven Nasan Eilecha Os, and when it says that he has a sign, Ba'odo Navi Emes, it simply means when he was a true Navi, he was able to produce that sign. Yiten Lach Os B'nevuah Acheres, so he gives you that sign by some other prophecy. Ulevasov, K'sheyachzer L'harshia, but then at the end, when he becomes wicked, Yomer Lavod Avodas Kocham, and he says to worship Avodah Zarah, V'samach Olai, and he says, oh, rely on me, Sharei Muchzak Ani Al Yidei Osum Ofes, because I already have a chazaka because of the sign I did earlier. That's where he would have produced a sign when he produced it as a Navi Emes. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, "V'zomame bas kohen," again by a bas kohen who commits adultery, so the punishment is sreifa. But by edim zomamin involved in such a case, their punishment is chenek, and also by the man who the bas kohen commits adultery with, the man, he gets a punishment of chenek as well. And the Gemara says, "Menohani mili," from where do we know this? Amar Rav Acha breder Ravika. Rav Acha, the son of Ravika, says, "Detanya," because we learned in a brayso. Rabbi Yosi Omer, Rabbi Yosi says, "Ma Talmud lomer v'asisam lo kasher zomam lasos liachiv." What does the Torah mean when it says that you do what he tried to do to his brother, by Edom Zoman, you do to them what they tried to do to the defendant? Because in all cases of Edom Zomamin, the Edom Zomamin, and let's say also the man who commits the adultery with the woman, gets the same punishment as the woman. But Bas Kohen, but by the daughter of a Kohen, he Bisreifa vein Boala Bisreifa. She gets punishment of Sreifa, gets the punishment of burning, but Boala, the person that she commits the adultery with, he does not get Sreifa. Zomamin, now when it comes to the Edom Zomamin of such a case, Eini Yodeya im lo hukshu. I don't know. Are they compared to him? Do they get his punishment of chenek, or are they compared to her? Do they get her punishment of sreifa? Keshu omer lasas la'achiv, when it says in the pasuk achiv, the brother, la'achiv v'lo la'acho, so we understand it means to his brother and not to his sister. We follow his punishment, not her punishment, and so their punishment is going to be chenek, is going to be strangulation. Hadran aloch Elohein hanechenoken. We will return to you, Perek Elohein hanechenoken. If you're enjoying these videos and this channel, please like, share, and subscribe, and take a look at the description box below to see how you can support this channel. And we will now begin the 11th parak of Mesechet Sanhedrin. And the parak begins with the Mishnah, Kol Yisrael yesh lahem chelek liolam haba. All of Klal Yisrael has a portion to the world to come. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, V'yamech kulam tzadikim liolam yirshu aretz. Neitzer matoy maaseh yadai lehispar. It says that your nation is all tzadikim. They're all going to inherit the earth. And the Mishnah continues, Ve'elu she'ein lahem chelek liolam haba. The following do not have a portion in the world to come. Ha'omer ein tchias hamesim min haTorah. If somebody says that tchias hamesim is not from the Torah, that's the revival of the dead. V'ein Torah min hashamayim. If somebody says that the Torah is not from heaven, v'apikoris and an apikoris. Rabbi Akiva says, Afa korei b'sforim hachitzonim. Even somebody who reads in the outside svarim. V'halochesh al hamak, and also somebody who whispers on a wound. V'yomer, and says, Kol hamachla asher samti b'mitzrayim lo asim alecha ki ani Hashem rofecha, that all of the illnesses that I placed in Mitzrayim I'm not going to place upon you. If he whispers that upon a wound, also that person does not have a chelik liolam haba. Abashol Omer, Abashol says, Af hahoga es Hashem ba'osi Yosef, even somebody who pronounces the name of Hashem according to its letters. And the Mishnah continues, Shlosha malachim v'arba had yotos. There are 3 kings and 4 regular people. Ein lohen chelik liolam haba. They do not have a portion in the world to come. Shlosha malachim, the 3 kings are Yeravam, Achav, and Menashe. Yeravam, Achav, and Menashe. And the Mishnah continues, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda says, Menashe yesh lo chelik liolam haba. Menashe does have a portion in the world to come. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, Vayispal leilo vayishmat chinoso vayeshivei Yerushalayim l'malchuso. He was returned to Yerushalayim, to his kingdom, which Rabbi Yehuda understands to mean that he does have a portion in the world to come. Amru lo, they said to him, the Chachamim Chachamim said back to Rabbi Yehuda, L'malchuso Heshivu. That pasuk simply means that he was returned to his kingdom, V'lo l'chaya olam haba Heshivu, but he was not returned to a life in the world to come. And the Arba had Yotos, the four regular people who do not have a portion in the world to come, are Bilam, V'doeg, V'achitofel, V'gechazi, Bilam Doeg, Achitofel, and Gechazi. And Rashi explains, Kol Yisrael Yeshlam Chelik Leolam Haba Meikara Iri Ba'arba Misos. Originally, the Masechet deals with the four different death penalties. Umefarish V'yazal Lehu Lakulu, and explains all of those. V'hadar Mefarish Hani Dein Lam Chelik Leolam Haba. Now the Masechet goes ahead and explains those who do not have a portion in the world to come. Hachi Garsin, in the proper text is Ha'omer Ein Tchias HaMesim Min HaTorah. If somebody says there's no Tchias HaMesim from the Torah, Shekofer B'midrashim the Darshinan B'Gemara L'kamon, meaning he denies the Midrashim that the Gemara is going to make later on. Minayin l'tchias hamesim in Torah. The Gemara is going to say, from where do we know tchias hamesim from the Torah? V'afilu yehei modo maimin sheyichyu hamesim. Now, even though if the person admits and he believes that the dead will come back to life, ela delo remiza bo raisa, but he says it's not hinted to in the Torah, kofer, who that person is also called a denier, hoel v'oker sheyesh tchias hamesim in Torah, since he's uprooting the idea, the concept that there's tchias hamesim from the Torah. Malonu v'le'emunasa. What do we need him? What do we need his belief for? That's not a true belief. Because from where does he know that that's true? Hilkach kofer gomer hu, therefore he's considered to be a full heretic. Apikoris mefarish b'gemara, the Gemara will explain what an apikoris is. And svarim hachitzonim, the outside svarim, mefarish b'gemara, that also will be explained in the Gemara. And the Gemara says, V'chol kach lama, why does it go to such an extent that if somebody denies tchias hamesim min haTorah, that he loses olam haba? And the Gemara says, Tana was taught, who kafar b'tchias hamesim, he denied tchias hamesim, lefikach lo yeh lo chelek b'tchias hamesim. That's why he doesn't get a portion of tchias hamesim. Shekol midosav shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because all of the attributes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu are midah keneged midah. They're all a measure for a measure. So the punishment that he's going to receive, it fits the fact that he denied tchias hamesim in Torah. And the Gemara continues, the Yamar of Shmuel bar Nachmeni, Yamar of Yonasan, because Rav Shmuel bar Nachmeni says that Rav Yonasan says, Minayin shekol midosav shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu midah keneged midah. From where do we know that all of the attributes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu are measure for measure? Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, Vayomer Elisha Shimon dvar Hashem kais mochar sa soles b'shekel usasayim saurim b'shekel b'shar Shomron. Elisha said that the prices will be a saw of soles will be a shekel, 2 saw of barley will be a shekel, meaning there will be plenty. Uchsiv, and then it's written, Vayan Hasholish Asher Nishan Al Yodo Es Ishu Elokim. The officer answered and he said, Vayomer, he said, Hinei Hashem Osa Rubos Bashamayim Hayiyah Hadover Hazeh. Can it possibly be, is HaKadosh Baruch Hu going to open up the sky? Suddenly there's going to be plenty. Vayomer, so he said, Hin Charo Beinechu Misham Lo Sochel. You're going to see with your eyes, but you won't be able to eat from it. You won't be able to benefit from it. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf 90a Daf Beis.